Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug.Show. My name's Doug Cunnington, and in this episode, we get an update from Christy on November. She's been working with me, or we've been working together on the 2X Accelerator, and she's been doing a great job. If you're brand new to the show and you haven't heard the updates, we have at least 10 others on this particular case study, and we've been following along each month. So, Christy, how are you today?
Doing well, Doug. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. And I want to tell you congratulations. You hit $9,000 for the first time on the site. So
Ever.
How does it feel?
It feels way better than hitting $6,000, which felt pretty good. So
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a big jump this month. It was awesome.
Very cool. And there's a few areas that we can attribute it to. So can you talk about those? And also, you have been doing sort of a running total, how much revenue has grown compared to the same month of last year. So can you kind of outline all the earnings and such?
Sure. So this month was up 138% from 2020 November, which is great. I have started adding to the updates month by month comparison for increase or decrease in revenue. The good news is that none of them decreased this year, so that's great. The least amount of increase I've had this year was 60% for a month, so that's awesome. The highest I've had this year was 224% for a month, so overall, definitely trending in the right direction. And the other cool thing I calculated this month was currently I'm up 90% overall revenue from 2020. And so as long as December is, knock on wood, decent even, I should be hitting that double revenue goal that we set at the very beginning for the whole year. So that's awesome. And pretty much this month, it was 50-50 on Amazon affiliates and ads, which is pretty much usually the case, but both were significantly up. And then also saw a good jump in my Etsy affiliate. And we can talk about that a little bit later. But that's generally where we are for the year.
Awesome. And for people that want to dig into some of the numbers a little bit more deeply, you do blog updates, so there are graphs and tables and a lot more information so people can get the details here. And one thing I want to point out is the total revenue. I guess it's a 13-month running total here because it's November 2020 to 2021, but it's nearly $76,000, which is pretty impressive when you see it all together and you can see the growth as you go here. So that's pretty amazing. Is that surprising to you at all, or what did you expect?
I don't even know what I expected. I think it was just to make kind of a nice little side income, and instead it's now to the point where I'm just thinking, what else do I need to do for the site in 2022 to make it fully what I need it to be and really flip the model of my own income from my agency life to more of running the site. So that's cool. In the whole lifetime, it's generated $114,000, and that's been since October 2018. So I don't think I expected that. But now that I have a good sense of it and I know kind of what levers to pull, it does seem a lot more like, well, why am I not just going to double this thing every year?
Right.
Why would I not just try to do that?
The other part of that is, most of the income, because you've been earning so much more this year in 2021, most of the revenue has been in the last, 12 months. Like you're hitting like the high mark all the time. And, it kind of leveled out. There's a little bit of seasonality, like most niches have some seasonality. So yeah, this is absolutely amazing. Now I want to shift over to your courses. And this has been like a big focus. And, we talked about it sometimes in the previous updates where I pushed you in the direction that's a little bit different than what people hear, where it's developing your own courses, do email marketing, and develop all these other skills, which also means you're starting at like ground zero where you don't know
Mm-hmm.
anything and you're a beginner again.
Yep.
So you finally were able to get the courses out. Can you talk about that and start with the earnings?
Yes. So did get the first course out this month. We do have a second one in progress, but I don't see that launching before probably January, which is several months late for that as well. The general theme being these take way longer than I thought they would. But we did our 2-week kind of introductory pricing promotional push in the last 2 weeks of November. And we set the price at $99 versus $149. And we had 12 sales for a total of 1,188. So just to kind of put that in perspective of what I have put into the course, getting it to this point, I invested about $2,700 in content, admin support, systems. I have to pay $120 a month for Teachable, which is a lot in my opinion. And so once we take away the 12 sales for November and the 3 beta tester sales, I'll need an extra $1,300 in sales to break even. So that's about 9 more sales.
Okay. Not too bad. And I think we've already debated many times on like the approach of selling a course. So I won't even talk about that. But I was going to say that selling 10 is really good, especially at that price point. So it proves the market. It proves that the price point is generally in the right range. You generally had not sold as many of the cheaper digital guides, right? Which are like $10 or something, which it's so surprising. Like, why do you think you sold more of this more premium product that's a lot more expensive? It boggles me.
Well, I think what we did well with the course launch, which is mostly due to my team member, Lindsay, we did pretty well with the email drip campaign just for the course and with all of the social posts. So it was, Instagram and Facebook and Insta stories and all that kind of stuff. And we did see that every time we would send, a big email, which is about every other day, that we would get at least a sale or 2. So I think the email strategy worked. Our list size is upwards of, I think, 3,700 now. So we do have a good sized group to be talking to about new courses. And I think we would go ahead and just follow that model again for the second course when it's ready. And the other thing that we have in mind is a quarterly promotion where we do drop the price related to like a faux holiday or a real holiday that is related to the course content. So that's kind of the plan for 2022, because after we stopped that 2-week sprint in November, haven't had any sales since then, right? So like clearly that content was the driver, and I don't know if we'll see many, if any, just having people stumble upon it in the knowledge directory or things like that. So it'll be interesting to see.
I agree with that assessment. You may get the odd purchase here and there, but typically if you're not pushing it, I mean, it's not front of mind. So
the one thing I did do was we have now that site-wide ad inserter, and I did change that to the course. So that is showing up in pretty much every blog post as at least like a little promo square. So
got it. Okay. And would you change anything about how you launched either for the next course coming up or when you relaunched the one that you already did?
I don't know that I would change that much, except maybe doing a few teaser emails prior to launch just to kind of set the stage for that. I think we did a good job of not having our emails be super repetitive. Each one was about a different topic or from a different perspective, and that was good. And we would also strip out anyone that bought the course from the rest of that drip campaign. So if they bought, they weren't continuously getting a bunch of other emails at that point they don't care about. So that was good. I think my bigger takeaway is just make courses smaller, right? Like content wise, like I think it just kind of blew up bigger than I thought. And in 2022, I would probably pick more niche topics that are a little bit more digestible.
The nice thing with that is not only is it faster to develop them, but you could bundle them together. And probably with your marketing background, like bundling is a great psychological thing that will encourage people to buy stuff. That said, I have a few courses. I rarely bundle them, but I'm a little bit lazy because you have to set up new offers and like bundle it and then do the marketing material specific for that bundle. And I'm not a big discounter either, just in general.
As far as I can tell from Teachable, it does make it easy to do, I think they call them bumps or something, where you can attach a second Teachable offer pretty easily on the checkout page. So that would be easy once we had a second course, or you and I have talked about putting the paid digital guides into Teachable as little ebooks, and then those would also be good upsells.
Yes, exactly. Okay, cool. So no huge changes in the launch. I do recommend the pre-launch like teaser emails to get people thinking. As we know, if you're lucky, I think you have a pretty high open rate on your emails, but people are not opening every email. Sometimes those stats are wrong. Sometimes they're interested, but they just get busy and then it falls away and they don't pay attention. So just getting out there more is helpful.
And probably were I to do it again, I would not be launching on Black Friday, Cyber Monday time period when they're getting a ton of other emails. That's just when it landed. And so it's fine. But realistically, I would not do that again. So.
Okay. Very good. Anything else about the courses before we move on?
I mean, the only thing is now, like, I found it pretty painful to make the course, probably because I was starting fresh. Like, I'd never made a course before. However, now, like, it doesn't cost me anything to keep it running except for keeping Teachable going. So it is just like another resource, like the paid guides, like the blog posts I've already published. Like, it's creating an asset that I can use for a long time and figure out new ways to sell. So it's nice that it's not, a lot of industries are like, well, I tried it, and if it didn't work, I have a bunch of inventory, or I have, there's just none of that with the affiliate model and creating online content. So that I just think is comforting. Like, I have the asset now. I can figure out how to use it.
Very good. Yeah, agree 100%. All right, let's talk about the content sprint, and I think it may lead us to Etsy as well. So you had mentioned the content sprint before. Can you outline what you did and any data you may have already?
Sure. So the holiday sprint was 25 new articles that I've been publishing over the last probably month or so. And they were exclusively buyer's intent posts, which is different than what I would normally be publishing. Normally it's probably 50-50, if not more, informational posts. But for the holidays, I was like, I want to do 25 kind of low competition keywords, buyer's intent, and see if I can get them to rank fast enough to matter for the holidays, basically. And I think what we've seen is that, yes, that does matter. There's no way to really tell how much it mattered, except to say November was great. And so clearly it didn't hurt. And, like I said with the course, these are still 25 articles that'll live on my site forever, making money, right? So whether it's this holiday specifically, or if they start ranking in January by next Christmas, like, it'll be great. The one thing that I did notice that was interesting was that we had several gift-related posts that we did specifically for products on Etsy, which is not a huge contributor when I compare it to Amazon and ads, but it's not bad. Like, I've made $1,000 from it over the 2 years. And this month it went from $38 in October to $231 in November, which was too much of a change to be a fluke. So last November to December, it was like a $30 increase. So that was something that I definitely noticed, and I attribute to specifically that holiday sprint. because those are Etsy specific posts that we put out. And clearly that's a good idea around the holidays.
And how many Etsy specific posts did you
Yeah,
publish
it
again?
was probably 3 out of the set.
That's funny.
So
Because it 10x'd the Etsy revenue, which, you've been working on your site for a little while, but a lot of people are kind of in earlier stages. So you went from like $30 from Etsy revenue to 300 roughly, or sorry, it was like $27 to 260 to be specific. So roughly a 10x for 3 articles, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And last November was about 110 total, and then the November before that was 36.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, I could have been reading from the wrong column there, but
you're good. It still makes me happy. So
huge. Okay. Very cool. And so people get an idea, were these like KGR type keywords or
yeah. So I don't necessarily do the calculation anymore the way that I did at the very start of the site, because I have now, I think, a general sense of the point of KGR, right? So when I look at a term, I go look at the competition, I see what kind of things are ranking. Like I have a good sense of whether something will rank fairly quickly or not. And when I'm, going through my list of potential keywords, I'm still picking a lot of the ones that are lower traffic, right? But if I do a bunch of those that other people are not going after, it's still great. Within, my overall yearly content, I do go after some bigger terms and usually can do pretty well with them. But for things like the sprint, I wanted things that would like quickly rank. And just knowing that like the holiday traffic specifically, like if I can just get someone to click, even if they don't buy what was on my list, chances are they're in the mood to buy things. So yeah, that was kind of my goal.
All right. And basically you'll publish something and it'll probably rank in the top 10 in a week or less, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the goal.
Okay. And have you ever had issues with your site or specific pages being indexed? I know people ask this very often, so we haven't talked about it in a while. Your site has been around. There's quite a bit of content. You get traffic from various sources, which I think all that contributes to Google actually indexing things when you publish them almost immediately. So go ahead.
I've never forced it to re-index lately. I know you can do that. I haven't, right? As you know, which we sometimes disagree about, I don't spend a lot of time tracking individual keywords, solely because I think, given my personality, that's somewhere I would go down the rabbit hole and never come out and actually do anything. So it's a little easier for me to just be like, it's going to do what it's going to do. I'm going to throw it out into the ether, hope for the best. So yeah, I don't worry about forcing it to index or checking to see when it does.
Okay. Very good. Yep. And I think, a lot of times when I give people advice, unfortunately, their sites are so young. So maybe they've been working on it for 2 or 3 months or even 6 months, and 70% of their articles are indexed and they show up and they get data. But some of them, it just takes a little while for it to get going. And perhaps that's what happened with your site also in the very beginning, but you are not one. I think it's a fine balance to look at the analytics enough, but not too much. And things are going fine for you. So keep doing what you're doing. But you would not have noticed that in the first 6 months because you just weren't looking at those areas. You were just publishing more and more content. Yep.
And that's something that, looking back, I'm very happy I did. If I were to give a piece of advice, as long as your SEO is solid, I followed the KGR method religiously in the beginning. And I basically had this thought that if I can get more content out there faster, right at the start, give it a long time to bake, that would basically help me get where I wanted to go, by a factor of X compared to dribbling out content once a month myself. So I would absolutely do that again. I will probably do that again in 2022. We'll see. But yeah, I was really happy to have that course of yours in the very beginning when I didn't know anything about SEO because I literally just needed a guide.
The other thing that we were chatting about before is a little tweak from ads. So you use Mediavine and you were, I guess, talking with your account manager. So what came out of that conversation?
Yeah, so I was just asking them every now and then. I'll check in with them and just ask if there's anything that I could be doing differently. And one of the things that came up for November was ways to increase basically ad impressions on the page. So that relates primarily to how much time someone's spending scrolling through the article and reading and how many ads they see while they do that. And one of the things that they brought up was when I have really long form articles, which I have many of, if I have the table of contents up at the top and it's always expanded, then a lot of people will obviously use it and jump down to different parts of the article, skipping a bunch of it, which I had thought initially was good for user experience to give people like a roadmap of where it was going, the option to click to whatever they wanted. I did not think about the fact that then that would impact ads, right? Because at the time I did it, I didn't have ads, right? So it didn't really matter. And so they just recommended like a quick fix of go into my table of contents tool and default to always being condensed instead of expanded. So people can use it if they click on it, but otherwise that's going to make more people just scroll through the content and see more ads. So I do think that that helped boost ad income for November. There's no way for me to tell how much, but it was about a $600 boost from October to November. And I don't think all of that is just holiday traffic.
Right. And again, people can go check out the earnings graph and kind of see what it was in 2020 and even earlier than that, but you can sort of compare and maybe approximate some percentages of what, you might predict. But yeah, like you said, there's no way to exactly tell because there's always too many variables and it's really hard to track that kind of information. All right. Anything else with ads?
Nothing else with ads specifically other than to say that it was very good that I diversified in that way. And that, looking back, was a very good idea. Yes, it's not as nice for user experience, like 100% agree. Though I like not being solely tied to Amazon, just given the number of times they've decreased their commissions just while I've been doing this. So it makes me feel a lot better to have the diversity of that. The other thing I was going to notice as I stare at the numbers here on my end was that we did pass 2 million in lifetime traffic this month, and that was kind of cool.
Right. Did you celebrate in any way?
I took that $9,000. That was pretty good.
That's a good celebration. All right.
Yeah.
Now, we've just been highlighting all the great stuff that you've done, but you've made mistakes and you've failed at a few things. So I'll put it that way. So I'll knock you down a little bit.
Thanks.
Just so it's
Yep. Merry Christmas.
Just so people know that not everything works every single time you try it. So a couple other items that you mentioned that are not working are the knowledge directory and the paid guys, which we've kind of talked about a few times. But yeah, any other thoughts around those, around November?
Yeah, I did what I call like the red, yellow, green Post-it note exercise this month as well, which is basically when I'll take literal sticky notes of those colors and I'll put the things that I hate or the things that make me just like kind of want to die on reds, and I'll put the things in yellow that I'm like, it's okay. I mean, whatever. And then the things that are working well in green. The knowledge directory was definitely on reds because I feel like I've invested a lot of time in it. I hate going in and checking 60 affiliate programs to see if I made $2 anywhere. Like that's just not a good use of time. So those are all going on my delegate list for 2022. And yeah, I'll probably just periodically have someone from my team check them, like maybe even quarterly. I have not decided to put any more like time or effort into promoting that at this point. I do think that we're not taking advantage of our email list nearly as much as we could. And so it's likely that if I made mini sprints about a particular course, that I could then sell some of those. That's just not something that we've tried yet. So I would put that on kind of the low hanging fruit for 2022. Like if I picked a higher value course, that I think would be worth doing a few emails just to see. But I'm not going to dump tons of money into that project for sure. Paid guides are fine. Like you said, they're $10 a piece. I sell a couple every month. It's not hurting me to have them there. So don't plan on really doing a lot differently with that. The only thing that we did talk about was maybe converting them to ebooks and putting them in Teachable to have as upsells. So that I do think is a good idea. But for the most part, like Knowledge Directory, I thought it was a super cool idea. It might still be later. Like again, it's not costing me anything now, so it's fine. But
right,
not a wild success.
The idea to pick a specific course or product does make sense. And I suspect, I mean, it's actually separate from the Knowledge Directory, in my opinion, because it would just be an email marketing sprint for the most part.
Yep.
So,
and I probably wouldn't even link back to that. I would just link to the course. So,
right. And I think you're right. The email list is so valuable. It's so targeted. A lot of the emails are just value and building trust and that sort of thing. So in the long run, and you mentioned this before about maybe doing more lead magnets and building the email list a little bit more, that would be amazing, especially if you're selling your own products, which, I mean, I could see promoting other people's products if you don't already have the offering. Obviously, you wouldn't market something that is direct competition with you. But the fact is, you made a pretty good amount of money from just selling 12 of your own products, and it's almost all profit. Of course, you have to pay back the initial investment, but once you get past that, it's pretty amazing.
Right. Well, even if it, let's say that at minimum, I would sell the same amount per year, right? That's still decent, right? For something that I've already made. Like if I sold $12,000 worth of this course that I invested in one time over the years, like site's not going anywhere. I'm not selling it. So.
And if you just, there could be some pieces that you optimize, either the launch or the sequence or something like that, or something on the sales page that is similar to the tweak of the table of contents where, if we just, it's rare to find those, but they do exist, especially when you're going through your first launch. You don't know what you don't know. You hardly know what you do know. So then next time around, you could improve it. So,
and I think, over the years, I would also be adding our own video content to courses that we've already made. So the second course will have our own video in it. The first course did not. So it's also something where I can improve what we've already built over time. But even if I did nothing and we just promoted it 4 times a year, maybe I would make $4,000 from that, which is good. I'll take it.
That's pretty good. Yeah. And you should, just what I know from my courses, you should improve in the way that you're selling it, assuming your audience continues to grow at some level. You should have new eyes on it. And then maybe the timing's right for people that didn't want to buy anything because they were saving for gifts for the holidays versus buying like a course for themselves, maybe.
Right. Okay. Well, and if I sold $4,000 of it in a year, that's 80 new articles I can buy. So that, that's how I'm thinking about it now. It's not necessarily like, what am I going to spend that on? No, like, what can I buy for it to put back into my own site? Like, that's what I care about.
You were over budget for what planned on this year, which I think was like 15,000 or something like that. So can you talk about your spending and why you went over budget?
Yep. So I planned on putting 15K into the site. I saved that up in 2020. So it was just sitting there ready to go, and I didn't have to worry about it or feel bad about it. Something I planned to spend. I spent a lot of it on content. I've spent a good amount of it on systems, which, I mean, improved hosting, Teachable. It's not a super sexy way to spend $300 a month or whatever, but in theory, that's a good investment. And so we're doing it. But the big reason that I went over budget, probably the entire reason, was all the technical site speed, just buggy stuff that I was dealing with this summer. And that was probably literally the extra 5K. Okay. So it wasn't that I wildly overspent on anything that I had planned to be doing, which is good. And for 2022, I know that, I should probably have kind of a technical budget in mind, just, or at least a bucket of funds that I don't mind pulling from. But for the most part, it goes to content, which is a good investment.
It's kind of like owning a home where there's always some maintenance, maybe further out, but it's nice to have what do they say? Like 1% of the value of the home for the random stuff. And it, sometimes, for a few years, nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, like you said,
new furnace.
Yeah. Roof, furnace.
Yep.
There's always something. Okay.
That was my first winter, furnace out. Very cool.
And at the beginning of the year, you put together a very nice Gantt chart for things that you were going to work on, like a normal project and roadmap. Shit goes wrong and your plans change, and then things get delayed and that sort of thing. Any main highlights for either projects that were totally scrapped or delayed or anything like that?
Yep. I would say I did pretty well, at least touching on most of the things on the list, especially in the first half of the year. I would say summertime kind of threw me off, right? That was just, go back and read the summer posts if you want a droopy drawers version of me. But I was able to do some digital guides, did 3 of those. I was able to do both of my content sprints, which is 75 articles. I was able to launch the first course. I did the knowledge directory. We've done outreach all year. Those were all planned. Second course not done, but it's in progress. List building, we haven't focused on it, but it has been building. So that's something that I would move to probably 2022. Blog acquisitions is something I do want to get back to for next year. I have one lead currently that I'm kind of doing the data gathering on, but that would be for next year. And then lead magnets, I do want to get into next year and see if I could really blow up the email list, and take it from 3,700 to 10K, right? That would be awesome. So things like that would be good. I just had to accept that I wasn't going to get to everything.
Right. Was that hard for you?
As you smirk at me. Yes, it's hard for me, Doug. I think you had to tell me I didn't have to do everything. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you picked this stuff. So yeah, you can take it off.
Who made this plan? Yeah, no, I like getting everything done that's on the list for sure. But then again, I do have kind of a head start on 2022 plan, which is what I'll be doing most of December. So yeah, I do feel good about everything we got done. I don't think I would have gotten nearly as much done this year without a plan. And I certainly wouldn't have done nearly as much without a giant goal of doubling the site revenue. That was just a brainchild of, I don't know, let's just see. And it looks like we can. So I am very glad that we put some structure around it. That's a good way for me to end up getting things done. So,
in a note about creating a plan like this, I mean, it is hard to remove the items, especially if you're very I guess like list oriented and type A, and you want to get done all the tasks that you committed to, but we don't have enough information as we're starting the plan and thinking about it. So 6 months down the road, you realize, oh, like we have all this actual real world information, and maybe you do the red, yellow, green post-it exercise that you talked about, and you realize, well, I hate this stuff, and I can actually work on things that are energizing, that move the needle, and ignore the things that I'm like really struggling with, and it's hardly working. The other part, a nice analogy, and maybe not everyone has this sort of characteristic, but do you ever have like something on your calendar and you're like, 50-50, and then when you get to cancel it, it's amazing. Like just
Doug, I love canceling stuff. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
No. Yeah.
Even things that I like with people I like, delighted to cancel.
Well, we should set up meetings. I want it to not
be my idea though. I just want like circumstances to arise in which I need to pretend to be sad that it canceled while I secretly rejoice inside.
It's something cool. So if you can say no to things, like you may feel like, oh, wow, I'm going to have a much better week because I got that off my calendar.
Right.
So, and one specific, I'm just thinking about it now, but one specific thing for me is sometimes I end up having to meet with people that are in vastly different time zones. And if it's a coaching situation, I'm happy to do it. I'll wake up early. It's totally fine. But occasionally it's for a podcast interview. Yeah. And I realized that I dreaded it because I work best at this time of day that we're talking right now, which is it's like 10 a.m. So I got probably like a 5-hour window. It's pretty good. In the evening, my batteries are low. I'm vegging out. I go to bed early. Yeah. So like usually my wind down routine starts at like 8 or something like that. So like I go to bed. Doug. Yeah. And it's tough because a lot of times those meetings are like at 8. Yeah. So I don't take them anymore. And if I need to do one, I'll probably just ask, unless I need to sort of cater to them because they're doing me a big favor. That's totally different. Right. But a lot of times it's like, can you wake up at 5 a.m?
Right.
No, I'm not going to. No. You wake up at 5 a.m.
Right. So, like I'll be here at 10. Talk to you then.
Yeah, it's tough. But okay. Yeah. We're coming up upon the end of the year and closing down this whole endeavor, which appears like it will probably be successful, like to the letter of like doubling revenue. So what's on the horizon for next year? You're going to spend some time planning. So can you talk about the planning process and then maybe a couple bullet points on what you're thinking about?
So the big thing for me is that now I think I've tried enough different things to know what goes on a green sticky note and what doesn't. Not to say things on yellow aren't important sometimes, but it doesn't mean that necessarily I need to be the one doing them. I think the big thing I've learned over the years running another business was that sometimes my yellow and red Post-its are other people's greens. And if you can find those people who like doing those things that you hate, then everybody wins. So it's a lot of, right now I'm working with my team to say what gets delegated, what can we put some process around. There are things that I'm just not going to do anymore. Just not going to do it. And there are things that I want to get back to doing more of that I couldn't do so much this year because I was trying so many different things. So I want to get back to doing a lot of the SEO stuff myself. That's what I like to do. I feel like it's going pretty well. So I want to be doing that. I want to do more content. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be writing it all, but it does mean that, the group of people that I've already worked with for writing, finding a couple new ones, I plan on like blowing up the content next year, I think is my general plan, along with, maybe doing a blog acquisition or two to kind of shortcut my way there. And yeah. So I think for me, it's like content focused next year. I'm not sure what that'll look like. I like the big sexy goals. So there will be one TBD, but Yeah, so far this year has just definitely showed if it puts some structure around a giant goal, like that works out pretty well.
And to get an idea of the scope, I think this past year you published about 75 articles. What do you think you might target for next year?
No, 400, double the content maybe.
Okay.
I think we'll be at 500-ish by the end of this year. So maybe I go to 1,000.
Okay.
That would be a giant endeavor. However, I've done it enough to put a process around it that it's not going to be nearly as hard as it was in the beginning, right? It's not 2018 anymore. Like I generally know what needs to get done. So, I think I could have that going as kind of the undercurrent of 2022 and then actually have the mental space knowing that that is getting done to go and cherry pick some of this other stuff like second course, acquisitions, lead magnets, like some of the other stuff that would be a green Post-it note for me if I knew that the content was getting done.
Got it. All right. Well, it'll be exciting to see how it goes. And I think, it seems like a very doable goal. There were some hurdles along the way this year, and then creating the courses, like you said, is a lot more work. Marketing them is even more work. And once it's out of the way, you're in good shape. But yeah, it's a tremendous, it pulls your focus and the team's focus as well. All right, final question. Any idea for the budget for next year now that earnings are higher, considerably higher? And this year, you allotted, $15K and had to adjust a little bit, but any thoughts on that?
So I would guess that I might put in 15 to 20K in content. So I pay a decent amount for my articles. I know that you can get them cheaper, but as a writer in my other life, I just can't make myself do that. So 20K would buy me 400 articles for a year. And most of the other stuff I want to do doesn't really cost money. It's just work, lead magnets, stuff like that. It's all stuff I can do myself. Blog acquisitions would be an open question on how much I might spend there. It just depends if either something falls in my lap or if I go back to my kind of acquisition target list, which I have because I'm a nerd. And it's probably got 30 that would be pretty good. And I might just start doing outreach to those folks and see. So that would just be if I found a good opportunity or if I found some low-hanging fruit, someone who just wants to get rid of their blog, right? And maybe the content isn't optimized at all. Maybe it's not making any money, but probably I can turn it into something that makes some money. So I would say at least 20K for November's earnings. I've already earmarked them for content. So that 9,100 goes straight into the operations budget for next year. Nice.
Okay. Well, of course, all this stuff is flexible, and we'll get another update from you.
Yes, I'm so flexible.
at the end of December. So hopefully, we'll cross another milestone. I can't remember if I said it on the record or off the record, but probably in April or maybe even March, I said, I think your site can probably hit about 12K in December. And it's kind of tracking along that way. I wouldn't be surprised. I won't make you say a prediction unless you want to. Do you have any predictions?
Well, I think when I do a little bit of projection from last year, but I take out the 1,000 that was from the course for November, I'm guessing it'll be closer to 10 or 11, which would be awesome. Still, like last December, I made 4,900, which I thought was amazing. And it was, right? So if I crossed 10, period, I would be delighted because that's just another mental milestone of being like, the amount of content I currently have can generate $10,000. Like that helps me just be like, this is doable, even if it's not making that every month. It's proven that that is possible with this amount of content. So, hey, if I double the content, can I make 20? Or can I realistically make 10 every month next year? Like, maybe.
Right.
So,
okay. Well, that'll be amazing. Like I said, I think 12 is possible. But yeah, if people look over at the traffic graph and extrapolate, and who knows? It's impossible to know. But there's a lot of variables like with ad revenue and such. So, all right. Anything else, Christy, before we finish up?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we're just back on track from a rocky summer. But now it's to the point where I am going into 2022, like, more excited about it. I'm excited to make a plan for it. I'm excited to dump money into it, frankly, because I know I can get it back out of it. So it's great. Like, this is something that I'm building for really, like, my future self, right? So it's not something that I'm using to live on right now, although it does buy me some fun stuff. But this is something that I'm like, okay, when I'm old like Doug and I don't want to be doing my other business and I'm going to bed at 8 p.m., what can I have that's working for me? So
that's right. Yeah, we should all aspire to such goals.
We should.
All right. Thanks, Christy, and we'll talk to you next month.
All right. Bye.